Hello, my name is Tom Cronin. In 1991 and 1992, I conducted a comprehensive series of interviews on camera with a diverse, often eclectic cross-section of Orleans residents. Some I knew personally, others I had never met. All had a solid connection to Orleans. The intent of these interviews was to record through the eyes of the people and their experience, their history of the town. Funding for the series was provided by a generous grant from the Community Preservation Council of $18,000 and a further contribution of $12,000 from American Heritage Realty, now Cape Cod Ocean View Real Estate. I sincerely hope you enjoy our series, In Those Days, Historic Voices of Orleans. When did you first come to Cape Cod? You're not a native Cape Codder, Jim.
Nope,
Yeah.
but my aunt moved here in 1949 into Eastham, and my cousins grew up here, so we were coming down in the 50s. I came here to live myself permanently in 1974. After college, I had heard that there was some possible piano tuning work that I could get, and I've never left.
You lived in Eastham to begin with, didn't you?
Yeah, I lived there for the first 10 years to 1984, and then moved up here.
Mm-hmm. How would you compare the two towns, having lived in Eastham and getting around, and then Orleans?
Eastham's a lot more difficult for a blind person. You have to cross Route 6 to get into any commercial if you're on the wrong side of it. And there's a lot more open land, no sidewalks. Most of your side streets have none. So practically it's a lot easier up here. And I think the town is actually, even though it's bigger, there's more of a center and more conveniences.
Yeah.
I like it up here better, I think. Nothing against the other one, but it's just its design.
Yeah, yeah. What specifically was the cause of your blindness? Were you born blind, or what?
Oh no, I was born premature. I was born at about 7 months, weighing about, 3 pounds 11 ounces to begin with. And what they did back then is put the babies in an incubator naturally because they're trying to save them. And the oxygen, they gave me too much of it. It destroyed the eye, the retina in its development. It's called RLF. And it was a very common thing back then. And it ran from probably at the end of the Second World War up to 1956 when they finally realized what it was. Because the symptoms didn't take effect for about 3 months until the eyes opened.
And I can recall reading about that, and they did a lot of different testing, and they never suspected oxygen because oxygen was looked upon as life-giving, I guess, really in that situation.
That's right. No, they had no idea until, they kept looking into it and exploring all options, and they finally found it. So after 1956, you saw rare cases of it, but not that many.
Bandit, forward.
What town are you from originally? What area did you grow up?
I grew up in the Squantum section of North Quincy, Mass., just south of Boston. Squantum is a little area that sticks out into Boston Harbor, really, and it's an island.
Oh, it's an island?
Yeah, but it's got a causeway going out to it.
Oh, I see. Be like Nahant then.
On that idea, yeah.
Yeah. So, did you, I think that you had told me that you had gone to a special school as a young boy. What was your schooling and your growing up like? Could you just run through that a little bit for her?
I went to Perkins School for the Blind, as it's called now. It used to be called Perkins Institute. Had a lot of different names. It was at that time, it was a school for the visually handicapped, basically. I started in 1956 and graduated in 1969, so I was there 13 years. And it started from kindergarten, went all the way through to senior year in high school. And it was a boarding school. Many of them stayed. I stayed after 7th grade. My first 6 years, I commuted home. And it wasn't a bad school. They had a very good educational programs going on there, and you had a chance to learn Braille, and they offered other good courses like piano lessons and piano tuning and wood shop and things like that. For instance, on my table is one of those Lazy Susan things that you put salt and pepper on, which I made back in 7th grade. So it was overall a good school.
So the courses of how difficult is Braille to learn? I mean, was that a continual subject throughout your entire schooling at Perkins?
Oh yeah, but you weren't always constantly learning new things in Braille. By the time 3rd or 4th grade came along, most of us were reading fairly well. Naturally, we used it all through school, of course, because we had to read the material.
Yeah. So it's really kind of similar to reading and writing that the children in a regular school would.
It's exactly the same thing, except
developed process.
Yep, it's exactly the same, except it's a different language, and but you learn the same way, and it takes about the same amount of time.
Did you have a typing course?
Yeah, I had 4 years of that with regular typewriters, and then 1 year of electric. And it was a good idea because when I went to college, I had to hand in type my papers.
What college did you go to?
Oh, I went to Boston College. And I went there 4 years between 1969 and 73, and I was a history sociology major.
Did you enjoy your college years?
Oh yeah, we had a great time. And I also was able to keep my marks up.
Oh, good. But the courses that you went to, you would have attended just a regular course, right?
Right. Oh yeah. No, the only thing different was that I quite often took my exams orally, and I had to have readers to get through the books, because a lot of that stuff wasn't in Braille, and to have it produced would take so much time that your semester would be over by the time you got it.
Yeah.
So when I did enter a new class, I would always make it a point to go talk to the professor afterwards to make sure they know my circumstances and the best way to do things.
I wanted to ask you about your music again. You're an accomplished pianist. Did that begin at Perkins?
No, it began before Perkins. We had an old converted player piano. It was an upright, and it was kind of beaten up pretty good, but still, I took an interest in it when I was real little. In fact, I believe my mother told me I first started by biting the ivories off. But later on, when I was about 4, I began to show that I had some knowledge of notes. I could recognize them. And my great-grandmother, who played piano herself, discovered this and helped me a little bit get started. So I was doing it before Perkins. Then I started more at Perkins when I was probably 8 or 9 and had some lessons there for quite a while. It was, if you had any ability, it was pretty much a requirement that you take it.
Yeah.
And then I went to a private teacher a couple of years during college and took some more.
Good. Paris is also going to be playing Valentine's night, 78.
Oh, yeah.
Can I get you a beer, Jim?
Okay.
I gotta go back and get my tripod.
Right?
Yeah. Did you study, or did you practice, study any other instruments?
No, I didn't really study any. I fooled around a bit with guitar. I can play a little bit of drums. I can play all keyboards. But I pretty much now stick to playing keyboards.
Have you ever played an accordion?
Yeah,
Ah.
I have one.
Have you?
Yeah,
So you can play Lady of Spain?
yeah.
Oh, good.
Actually, the accordion's becoming rather popular with all the Zydeco Cajun music.
Oh, it is?
Yes, they're using it quite a bit now.
Oh. Well, then I'll get that smart alecky tone out of my voice about accordions.
Oh yeah, I would know. Actually, it's on a that because it fits in that kind of music.
Yeah.
They're really making it work. I was quite surprised myself.
I'll have to watch for that.
Because we all joke around about them
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah. When did you start playing professionally?
We had a little group when I was at Perkins, probably in I must have been in 7th, 8th grade. And we went out and played gigs. You know, we wouldn't make a ton of money, $10 a piece or something, but it gave us the practice. We did a lot of wedding receptions in the Black Ghetto, believe it or not, because one of my friends was a black guy, and he was the one that booked the jobs.
Okay, these are the things we're going to need right there.
But all 5 of us were blind, and we went out there and did it. And it was pretty interesting. It was a lot of fun. That's where I really started as far as making any money.
Uh-huh.
And let me see. Then
I would love to have seen that group. What did it consist of? You had piano, bass, drums, and a couple of horns or a guitar?
Yeah. Let me see now. What did we have? We had a bass player. I played piano or organ, depending on what we could get, because at that time there was a lot of organ in music, the '60s. And we had a bass player, a drummer, and a couple of guitar players. I think there was one lead guitar player. And I think we had a couple of guys doing backup vocals and things like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what I'm doing now is I'm going to test, we test for middle C for the pitch to make sure that it's fairly close to concert. When I tuned it last it was. And we test it with a tuning fork. And these, each string is divided into 3. Each note has 3 strings in it. So these mute off the 2 outside ones so we can test it, because it may not all be the same.
After college, did you move down to the Cape then?
Yeah, I came down a year after college. Wasn't anything doing up in the city.
Where have you played here on the Cape?
Oh, let's see. Quite a few places, really. I've done, some things at the Sheraton Regal, private parties there. I've done, I do most of my work now here at Off the Bay, but
Yeah.
I played over the Orleans Inn for quite a number of years. I played over the Cape Playhouse Restaurant in Dennis one summer.
Uh-huh.
I did some stuff for, I used to do some stuff for Gaston and Gary at the Cleaver when they had it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. What else?
So you've hit the spots in town.
Yeah, I did New Year's for years down at what's now Jimmy D's. It used to be Dimitri's, the Sandpiper.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I've pretty much been around. Hi, doggy. I pretty much played around. Did some for a while at the Bradford and P-Town. VRs and Wellfleet. So as you can tell, I hit them all.
Uh-huh. I'm concentrating on Orleans, and wanted to talk to you just a little bit about this town. And one of the questions that I got thinking about was what your image of this town is and what it's like. What does it look like through your point of view? Describe some of the images you have of Orleans, if you could.
That's a tough question in a way, though, because, you see, with not really ever remembering what things actually looked like, it's more of a feeling rather than a visualization. You know, I think more on the lines of people that I've ran into around here rather than what the whole area looks or feels like. I do get a sense of a very small country area, like when I walk down Main Street, if they've shut the traffic off because there's something going on, like the 4th of July parade or something, I can really get a feel for that. Because it feels like a little country village.
But mainly, you think of a place through its people.
Yep.
And the people that you've met.
Yep. I think of it through its people, and I think the people up here, or by and large, are pretty nice. You know, I first got into town and I wasn't really that well known, and everybody went out of their way to make me feel welcome. One fellow spent 2 weeks working with me to learn the town.
Ah, so he walked with you? And
yep, and my other dog. Yep.
It and
yeah, showed me what to look for so that I'd know where to make turns. Showed me landmarks to use. And we did a very good job, too. I told him, you ought to be a mobility instructor. You do very well at it.
And he had no experience in the field, really?
No.
I wanted to ask you, was your dog with you at the time?
Oh, yeah, that's the idea. That's what we were doing, is
Okay.
teaching the dog how to find things. For instance, we went up Old Colony Way over here, and I wanted to teach the dog how to turn into the plaza. In that area, there's no sidewalk, so it's very, very easy to pass by it. And he showed me some things that I could look for in different designs of the edge of the street to have a pretty good idea when I'm getting there. One part had a little path running along it, another part sort of sloped off at an angle like this, and you can use that information to give you an idea how far you've gone.
Never really occurred to me then how much you really rely on the sidewalks of this town.
Oh, you do.
Or any town.
You do.
So you know the sidewalks better than anyone around.
I would say. I can tell by a grade pretty much where I am.
Yeah, yeah.
Now this piece of felt I'm putting in here acts as a mute for all the strings in an octave, which is 12 notes in all. And we run that through, we weave it in here like a basket. And it mutes all the out, so I can get the whole center of the piano lined up. And we build from that nucleus like a jigsaw puzzle, and we build outward towards each side. This thing I'm doing now, it'll get this piano lined up so you can play in all keys, is called the Bach temperament. And the object of it is to get some notes a little bit sharp, some a little flat, so that they balance out. If you tune everything perfectly, you'll only be able to play in maybe 1 or 2 keys. But you want to be able to play in all of them, all the sharps, all the flats. So you compromise a little bit and get something slightly off one way and something slightly off another way, so it'll balance out in the end. Bach discovered it in the 17th century. Before that, they tuned it for 1 or 2 keys, and then the other ones you couldn't play in it.
This dog, the current dog that you have, his name is Bandit. How many dogs have you had?
3.
What were their names?
Greta, Moon, and Bandit.
Now these dogs, just briefly, give me a little background on the whole seeing eye dog situation. Are there 1 or 2 places in the eastern United States where they come from and are trained, and what's the procedure, just briefly?
1, 2. Okay, there's 4 places in the east. 2 or 3 in the central and a couple out on the west coast. And they're all different. Generally they do follow the same training procedure, except that one of the schools in the east, in Connecticut, brings the dog to you at home, trains you with it there. The others you have to go away to school. And the Seeing Eye is the original. They were the first. They were founded in 1928 in Nashville, Tennessee. And they discovered that they had to move further north so that people could get winter experience with their dogs.
Ah.
So they bought land in Morristown and set it up there.
In New Jersey?
Yep.
Yeah.
And like I say, they're the original, and most of the other training methods are pretty much based the same way as the Seeing Eyes. They might use slightly different commands, but the idea is the same. Mm-hmm. We trained for about 2.5 weeks because I've had 2 dogs before.
Uh-huh.
When you're originally a first-timer, you train for about 3.5 weeks. The reason being that they give you what they call freelance. You have a lot more freelance. They take you on trains, buses, and subway in New York, and you go through a lot of stores and everything, which they leave out with us because we've already done it. The retrains have already done it.
I see. So have you had any, with either Bandit or the Greta or Moon, your other 2 dogs, have you had any close calls, any accidents, any...
Oh, Bandit took me up the middle of Main Street here one afternoon, got distracted and walked me right up between 2 lanes of traffic. And a couple of times crossing Route 6 in Eastham with Moon, somebody cut me off going fast.
Wow.
But it's the hazards of the trade, I guess.
Yeah.
The dogs aren't perfect. They're not machines, and they can make mistakes. That's why sometimes we have to be so strict with them, which people sometimes don't understand. They think we're being very harsh with them, but no. That's why you have to be.
Yeah.
But overall, this guy's mellowed down. He's doing good now. And up here, of course, where I'm able to cross 6A at a lighted intersection, the risks are far less as far as getting hit. It's still possible, but far less.
Yeah. Got any amusing stories other than near accidents? Any funny stories that you could relate? Well, before that, how far a range do you have in Orleans? Could you go pretty much all around in the center of Orleans?
Oh, all around the center. I could go anywhere with this. In fact, even some spots I can go where there's no sidewalk. I generally won't go out past Tonsett Road, where East Main Street starts, because that's no sidewalk at all, and the traffic goes along there pretty good. Other than that, that's my limitation.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere else I can go. I mean, I've gone down towards Rock Harbor here with no problem. And
right down by the harbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've gone down Locust Road there with comparatively little problem. Except he wanted to go into the cable company and kind of they'll go diagonally if they think that's where you want to go. And it's hard to teach them to make a sharp right-angled turn. And so they're in the middle of the street longer than you need to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
We occasionally run into that one. That particular note's been troublesome on this. I haven't been able, it sometimes won't stay where it's put.
Do you have any hope that someday in the future you might possibly see?
Well, let's put it this way. I keep in tune with what is being developed. But I don't think that it's a definite hope. I'm not psyching myself up for something that may or may not happen, because the shock of being able to get it back without really knowing what it was like, who knows what it might do. Anyways, I know they'd have to isolate me and start from very dark and gradually lighten up the room very slowly with over a period of maybe weeks or months. I know that the Japanese have been working on a concept of implanting a mini TV camera and bypassing the optic nerve, and so that you get black and white, and it would use a different area of the brain. But these things are really advanced, and I think they're a long way off in the future. So my feeling is, rather than get my hopes up too high, I'd do it if it really looked pretty good, probably. I'm curious enough. But rather than get my hopes up too high, I think we're best just to continue on, do what we have to do. So no, I really don't think that in the foreseeable future there's going to be anything more than experimental work on this.
Mm-hmm.
If we did that, I'd have to stop rearranging the furniture.
That's true.
I wouldn't have as much fun with you. Getting in your way while you're walking.
Doing your Billy North imitation of moving the furniture around.
I have to be very quiet.
Moving his steak when he's trying to salt it.
Moving his glass away, but he's trying to grab it.
Well, okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. We're glad to be able to help out with this.
And thank you, Nancy.
Well, you're welcome.
It's really nice.